Inglorious Rex. All right, Shane Davis. It is book number 2 for him for Inglorious Rex. Inglorious Rex started. It is essentially monsters fighting each other as a sort of sport, kickboxing, boxing, whichever boxing you like. That's sort of MMA, I guess, sort of style of fighting within monsters. So you have your monsters that are fighting each other, but they're actually controlled by humans out here. So actually, I've got some from this. I don't have a whole lot of pages, so I might need to show some of the pages here. But just generally, Inglorious Rex, monsters fighting monsters, they have sort of humans controlling them. So the little guys, little tiny humans controlling kind of giant monsters out there. They're fighting each other. You have your main character, Alex Stone. His brother is killed, so he dies in the ring with the Rex monster that you see there on the Dale Keown cover. I don't know why it's covered up. It's not like she's showing anything there, but anyways. So they bring his brother in because apparently they're the monster and the human controller, I guess you could call it. They're genetically linked, and we find out a little bit more in this next book here about that. But they're genetically linked, so the monster being worth a whole lot of money, they need to find somebody really quick, get back in the ring and fight. Well, luckily enough, Alex Stone, his brother, unfortunately passed, but he is of the right genetic material to be able to fit right in and start fighting with what they call 232. That's the name of the giant monster there that he's controlling. So, first book, all about kind of like, I don't know, essentially Rocky, but with monsters. They're going in, they're fighting each other, yada, yada, yada. We find out at the very end of the book why there's monsters and why they're fighting. Apparently, the city that they were in, and it's a little confusing with this book whether or not the citizens knew or don't know. Apparently they do know, but from the book they didn't know that essentially they were in a giant dome, a giant city underneath a dome, and on the outside is, a wasteland. It's a huge wasteland where all the, I guess, bad monsters are out there kind of roaming the earth. I don't know if they're monsters or if they're aliens. Alien monsters, it doesn't really matter. They're bad dudes, people. Bad dudes. So at the end of the first book, we kind of pull out, we see kind of the shocking revelation that, no, it's not just a futuristic city. It's kind of the futuristic city on the edge of the wasteland, the last, I suppose, city left. And apparently the monsters that are fighting each other in Inglorious Rex are the only hope humanity has to fight off the, I don't know, what would you call them? The evil monsters, the evil alien monsters out there. Bad dudes, we'll just call them. We gotta fight all the bad dudes out there. So that's the end of the book. We kind of have... I like the first book because it not only showed a lot of scale with like the monsters and the humans and that sort of deal. That was pretty cool. It also had a nice little story there with him, his deceased brother. When they kind of combined, human and monster together, I suppose some of their essence or some of their life force or some of their memories transferred across. So the whole time Alex Stone is fighting in the ring, he's hearing kind of his dead brother, kind of coming through 232. So very interesting, where it was a very big epic book, number 1, but also kind of very internal struggle as well. So very interesting book number 1. These are all book number 2, so you're seeing all of the book covers for book number 2. I really don't have a whole lot that goes with the pages here, but these are a couple of the pages here from Inglorious Rex 2. Very cool. Alex and the lady love interest that he has, they ended up fighting head to head here. So kind of interesting start to the book here. Anyway, so book number 2 essentially starts right off where we kind of left off. Not really. I think some time has passed. I think it's been about a year that has passed between the end of the first book and the start of the second book. I did like, because Bear, it had been a while since Bear read the first Inglorious Rex. I did like, for people like, well, not people, for bears like Bear here, that might not have read the book in a while, or folks out there that haven't read the book at all and are just starting with book number 2. He does a really nice kind of recap. I like the sort of beginning that he has here. Let me find it. I like the beginning of the book because it actually starts out with there we go. Let me see if I can put that on the other camera here. So it starts out with this sort of monster. It's funny. It's like an embryo of a monster, kind of a monster baby, I suppose. So it kind of starts out with that. There we go. Can you see that? There we go. Kind of starts out. That's pretty funny. That might be 24 feet tall, people. I'm not sure. So they kind of have a flashback where they're talking with his brother here. There's his brother right there, talking yada yada yada. Family stuff. Mom died. They only got dad left. They gotta fight. They gotta fight. Darn it. That's the entire book. Everything's fighting. Fighting, fighting, fighting. But it kind of goes into some other stuff here. Here's Little T. We'll talk about him in just a moment here. So it does kind of go through a number of all of what led up to what was happening in the book here. Um, they literally could have started it right there with Alex and I can't remember the lady's name on there, but the other love interest here. They could have just kind of started that kind of media res and did a little bit of kind of back. They have kind of an interesting thing there where they have like fight announcers, and I think it's really cool that they're allowed. They could put in a lot of exposition with some of the fight announcers, where if it was just kind of a normal story, it would be, I don't know, a narrator or maybe the character talking to himself or something like that. I thought that was really good, and they probably should have incorporated a little bit more of that into this because they could have started it out with the original fight. What ends up happening? Let me go back to it here. I can do the thing with the thing. What ends up happening? By the way, spoiler alert, people! Spoiler alert! I'm not gonna ruin the book here, but I just want to let people know. So they're getting ready to go fight and all that other good stuff. Figured out who's gonna battle royale with everything, and of course you got here we go. Here's the the announcers talking about what's going on and everything. I thought that was good exposition dump that they would have right there if Bear can get to it. Thing with the thing. Come on, Bear. Dual claws. I like this one. That shows some scale. I like that. I didn't like the 6 weeks later. He could have again just started it kind of media res with right here where they're starting to fight. Because as soon as they start fighting, they actually end up in cutting to kind of the outside world. That's a little too far. The outside world. They have a helicopter drone of some kind, and it looks like he's got a very special package. There's a monster. It's about to attack him, so they end up going and getting into or trying to get into Ark City out there. So that's where you see old what's his name? Little T. Little T is just freaking out there. He's not doing all the doo da da, the doo da da, the da da da, the doo da da da's. He's just freaking out. So there you go. What I thought that maybe could have happened is they would have, since everything is being broken into Ark City, start fighting within Ark City. Have that as sort of the concept, because what ends up happening is, if I can show it here, they end up getting shot out of the of the battle ring into the outside world and start fighting the monsters and fighting them out there. One of the downsides to this is what he really did really good in the first book Can you see that? There we go. Was scale. He did a really great job with scale. And now all of a sudden you've got monsters fighting monsters, giant monsters, and you're losing a little bit of the scale. So I think if you had it inside Arc City for maybe a couple pages, show the people running, oh my god, there's a monster everywhere. And of course, 232 and, gosh, I can't remember the girl's name there, but they're fighting the monsters there. And then maybe try to get them outside and start fighting out there. So here we are. The other great thing about this book, so we talked a little bit about scale as far as, the size of the monsters and all that sort of stuff. Also story scale as well. So one of the great things about this, especially towards the end, is we have a lot of, let's see, can we see it here? Monster is damaged. Alex Stone is in the head or in the back here somewhere. They get damaged by the bad dude monsters out there, so he ends up kind of going into sort of hallucination, coma maybe, and starts to see his brother there. And the sort of whole theme throughout the book is Alex not believing in himself, not fulfilling his ultimate potential. So his brother in spirit form, I suppose, here, memory form, kind of, is trying to bring his brother out and make sure that he kind of believes in himself a little bit more. And that's kind of how the book draws to a close. We have a giant monster. Of course, we have to have a bigger monster than the monsters already. You can see 232 there and how big the other guy is there. So that very good skill, but now it looks like it's an actual person, and now you're fighting a monster instead of a monster fighting an even bigger monsters. That's what I'd say about the scale. But as far as the story scale goes, I think he did a really good job. Bringing it down to size, bringing it down to sort of the human emotional level. Monsters fighting each other, smashing into old buildings and everything. That's great and all, but we gotta have a reason to care about the characters here. Gosh dang it. One of these days, beer. I don't want to show away the ending or anything like that, but it's getting pretty close here. I did like how he did. He's doing great paneling, but then he goes out and kind of does something a little bit unique here, where it's shown like that. So very cool, very cool. I liked that. It's funny, Malin did the same thing in his book, so I don't know if they were sharing notes or what out there. So that's the end of the book. They're bringing back some of the people from the last book there to battle out here. So there we go. There you are, people. Here's another. I like all the paneling that he did. Can you see that? There we go. What are the paneling? Some of the stuff was a little bit hard to read because it goes across 2 pages. So your eye would normally just kind of follow along with the page here and then come up, like that. There was a couple times where it goes back and forth, and then it goes back to one page. So I think that was kind of towards the beginning. Yeah, here's a... Well, no, this would be a good example. It kind of looks like it's, connected together, but it actually comes down and then the next page. So a couple of these kind of went back and forth, and that's confused Bear just a little bit as far as how that was working out. But other than that, there you go. There's another good scale. Human and then the giant monster there. So definitely taller than 28 feet, P-Money. Definitely taller. So really liked Inglorious Rex. I thought it was a very good book. There was talk, and I know he got a lot of grief about it as far as Little T and his weird dialect. Let me see if I can find that for you good people here. No, don't fall! Oh, for crying out loud. The claws. Just hurt what they used to be. For crying out loud. So, he has this kind of thing where he's kind of, I don't know, it does like 3 or 4 different dialects and accents that he has going. There's Arc City. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like that double page spreaderino. Let me see if I can find it here. Getting close. Here we go. We kind of showed this once before. Let me see if I can read it that way. Let's see. One dat I promise we settle in the cage. Alex Stone versus Atomic. Anatomic. That's right, Alex. You don't dink. You pilot 232, and I do the dinking, and I dink. We need to see. Do you deserve the crown? Or did you steal the opportunity away from, what does that say? Anatomic, when you stole her fight with Gwen? Man, that stuff like that. I think he did a really good job, more or less, with the dialogue. It just needed another pass or two over it. It just needed somebody else to kind of come out and say, hey, Shane, this is a little bit distracting here with a little T. I like the character, but it was a little bit distracting. No, don't fall, oh, for crying out loud. Anyways, there's Inglorious Rex. Still standing tall in Bear's opinion here, but not on his table. Not on his table at all. Here we go. This is the joys of doing it live, people. The joys of doing all this live. Alright, so anyways, Inglorious Rex 2, I'd probably say, Inglorious Rex 1 was the better book, just because it was more self-contained. The downside, oops, let me get it off of that. Get it off of that for crying out loud. The downside to Inglorious Rex 2 was kind of built in with the surprise at Inglorious Rex 1, where they pull out and they show Arc City. Oh, wow, great. Wow, that's really impressive. The problem with it is, that's why I say you should maybe bring the monsters inside the city, not only for scale, but also because we already knew a little bit about Arc City. What happens when you put kind of a interesting twist at the end there is, you spent your entire book, if the entire Inglorious Rex series was a movie, the first book was kind of the introduction. You're getting introduced to the characters, you're finding out about the world. It can either come before or after the inciting incident, but usually there's an incident that happens. It kind of happens early on, I guess, in Inglorious Rex 1, but the main, I suppose, inciting incident would be our good monsters, I suppose, fighting the bad monsters there. So what happened is, he introduced everything into book number 1, had a surprise reveal at the end, and now you've got to get into world building again in the second book. If it was like a movie, it would be kind of, I guess, right before the end of the first act, or maybe into the second act there. If you know anything about screenwriting, it would essentially be the fun and games sort of situation there. So, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, where he's just finding out that he's Spider-Man, he's kind of climbing the walls, he may fall down or do some stupid stuff. He has the stuff, the web shooting and all that sort of stuff. He's learning out about some of that stuff and going and kind of playing around and kind of having fun with all that stuff. So right before the, death of Uncle Ben, that sort of section in between there, the Spider-Man film, that would be kind of your fun and games. I would like to have seen that here with Inglorious Rex. I think it needed a little bit more kind of, we get to know a little bit more about Alex and his brother and his father, which was great. I think we needed to continue to learn a little bit more about, and we do a little bit about T, and also Anatomic there, and also just kind of Arc City in general. Even though that we pulled out away from it, I think there's a little bit of sort of dramatic irony in there where we, as the viewer, know what's going on the outside world, but maybe some of the Denzians in the city don't know. I think that would be a little bit more fun. And then all of a sudden you have these monsters coming in and attack. That would be kind of interesting there. Plus the scale of it and everything. Bringing it out to the outside world and so quickly, um, you have to reintroduce and redo the world building. So I think he lost a little bit of momentum in the second book. It was really good. A lot of good monster fighting in there, but maybe just a knock or two below the first book, just because it was so well and self-contained in the first book, and then second book it's a little bit more expansive. You're picking up plot threads from a couple different areas there, and I think tightening it up might have worked just a little bit better in his favor. But I would say Inglorious Rex 7.5. We'll make it 8. What the heck? I'll be generous. I'll be generous. Where's my good friend? Where's my good friend Shane Davis here? My good friend Shane Davis. We'll make it an 8. Make it an 8 out of 10, people. I think 8 out of 10. It's not in Bear's like top 5 or top 10 books, but it's definitely a good book. I would recommend it, even for maybe not very young kids, but I would say maybe 8, 9, 10, that age range. If they can handle a little bit of violence, I think it'll be okay. If there's an issue with some violence, I would maybe hold off on a little bit. But other than that, really good book. So congratulations, Shane. Congratulations, sir. Doing a good job. All right, so we did Inglorious Rex. Now we're on to Godlike from Jon Malin, people. Jon Malin. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's start off with the good stuff. There is some incredible art in here. Oh, once again, another book that had plenty of double-page spreads. You got plenty of great artwork out of it. If you enjoy a lot of the epic scale of things, if you enjoy bleak landscapes out there, this is your book. Very kind of reminded Bear of kind of Lawrence of Arabia. Just kind of a lot of the widescreen shots, a lot of the huge long landscapes and everything. That would fit in right here. I don't know if that's where he got a lot of his inspiration from, but very, very epic, very dramatic with a capital D. Very. Jon Malin has his artwork down into a point, and always kind of has it as his kind of own little style. Like a lot of the long panels. If you like a lot of the long panels in your book, if you like a lot of the Jon Malin artwork out there, this would be the book for you. This would be the book for you. I like the colors. He did the colors a great job in here. He did a good job of combining a lot of the fantasy elements along with, I suppose you could call it kind of sci-fi, along with, and this is where it gets kind of a little bit off the rails here, but a lot of religious. It's supposed to be combining essentially magic, science, and religion together, all in the book, and that's where they're at. This is normally where Bear would start to tell you what the story of Godlike is all about. I think I could tell you what the story of Godlike is all about. And I hate to say this, but it doesn't really matter. The book, the story that's being told doesn't really matter. Here, let me go back to it. Let me find it. Where are we? Here we go. The guy on the cover here. The fella here. Adam Raw. He doesn't appear until like the last couple pages, and I'm not including the very back of the book, the encore of the book. Excuse me, the epilogue of the book. He really doesn't appear until like the last couple, 3, 4 pages. Um, think of this as like, I don't know, Superman, and we're essentially following Clark Kent the entire book for 90, well, not even. Uh, he doesn't even appear until like page 23 or something like. It doesn't even. The book doesn't even really start until like page 20 or 23. He doesn't appear until like 23 or 25 as like the version of Clark Kent here. So, um, uh, interesting design that he has for the character there. But let me give you an example of the dialogue in the entire. This is the entire book. So I just got an example here. I don't know if we can see the dialogue. Let me blow it up. I think the scan is a little low res. This is a 2-page. This is a 2-page spread here. So is the other one here. This is literally the entire book. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll call it 10, maybe 10 and a half paragraphs on one page. On, well, 2 pages, but essentially 1 page describing. They're on a moon. They're on. Well, let's try to describe the story here. 10,000? No. 20? I'm not really sure. A long time in the future, between 10 and 20,000 years from now, it doesn't really make it super clear. Humanity has fought a war against an alien race, although they could also be gods, but let's just get beyond that. It's an alien race, and they've fought a galactic battle across the stars, and literally both sides have finally, came to their final conclusion, and they've ended up on 3 different moons on a planet at the far edge of the galaxy. The humans land on one moon. The aliens land on another moon. I'm not really sure, but apparently they're either God, quote unquote God, Abraham God, or gods, like, Roman or Greek gods, maybe? I don't know. And they're on a 3rd moon. And that literally starts Godlike, but then you have 22 generations after that, plus another couple 100 years. I don't know. Anyways, humanity's trying to survive. There's lots of wars. They're battling back and forth against each other, and after a long time, the aliens invade here. Let's just go with that. So the aliens that they thought they killed off come back to destroy humanity, and hijinks ensue. So there is. So the entire freaking book is. Now this is a little bit better. I like the artwork in here. I like the coloring. Looks great. But it's literally way too long. Way too long, people. 80 pages. Well, 78 pages. There's 2 blank pages in there. It's artistic, people, don't you know? Okay, so that's kind of the beginning of the story. So your main character here, who's Adam Robb, but he goes by a different name, and I forget his Clark Kent name, so whatever, we'll just call him Adam. It doesn't really matter. He is like the, I don't know, he is sort of the protector, he is the guardian, let me see if I can find it here, of the sword that you see there. He's protecting the sword. So, the beginning of the story is essentially kind of like the sword and the stone, or maybe, the Gordian knot sort of situation. We gotta find the one true fella out there that can handle the sword and use its powers and all that great stuff. You know how Bear feels about fantasy and all that sort of stuff, so I just already checked out. But he is sort of the guardian, I suppose, of the sword, which has magical powers, or godlike powers. But he never touches the sword. God forbid, never touch the friggin' sword. That's never touch another man's sword. I know that for sure. So here we go. Here's some of that. So the aliens come, and then they fight a big battle, and then it cuts to the aliens, and then the alien, on their own moon, I suppose. They cut to the aliens, and the aliens are talking because that's all that happens is just blather. And anyway, so it goes on and on and on. And it goes on even more, and like by the time you're like, okay, I'm done. I just stop, please. Bear literally had to get up like halfway through, get a drink, do some beer business. I came back. I was like, okay. Uh, at first, I thought I was supposed to take this seriously. I suppose. I went into the later half of the book just as maybe this is humor. Maybe this is supposed to be funny, like mustache twirling bad guys, that sort of deal. Um, and then it gets to the end where I'm not really sure, but 10,000 years into the future, they're still talking about 9/11, I suppose. And Jesus makes an appearance, and Muhammad, I don't know, maybe. It could have been one of the 9/11 hijackers, although I looked up the name and it wasn't the 9/11 hijacker, so maybe it's just a Muhammad, just generic Muhammad fella. Um, and then he gets all the superpowers, uh, and then that's it. And then they go to the epilogue with the really bad guy. He's like, oh, I'm gonna get that fella. I'm gonna get that outer raw fella. And then that's the end of the book. And you read 80 pages, and you're like, what the hell did I just read? And I wish I could tell you, good people. I have a, well, bearers of several minds. Once again, showing rather than telling would be the theme for Godlike, and instead, Jon decided to tell some more. And then tell some people. I have no idea how this got past any proofreading. I literally have no idea. This was no way. Listen, I like Jon Malin. I want to see him succeed. I really wanted the book. Honestly, listen, people. I like Shane Davis, but I wanted Jon Malin to win this one. Well, anyways. So let me find the 9/11 stuff here for you, good people. If we can show that on freaking YouTube. I'm not sure. We'll show it here. Spoiler alert. Although really it doesn't matter, and I'll tell you why here in just a moment. But let me get to it. Let me show you the page here. Can we see this? Can we see this? Okay, so there's that. There is Muhammad. I guess darn it, you can't really see it. Muhammad Syed al-Saud, aka Holocaust, because that's what you want to name your freaking Muslim character in your book is Holocaust. Not so sure about that one. I literally could go into whole different directions here, but here he is grabbing the sword, and for some reason there's the American flag, Jesus Christ, and 9/11. I have no idea what any of that. Well, I sort of do, I think, but it's weird. It's really weird and odd, people. So anyways, there is Godlike. It's 80 pages of great artwork with a story. I literally had to go to. You never want to do this, people, but I literally had to go to the supplemental book to figure out what the heck is going on with all of this stuff. Here, I think this is what Jon Malin is going for. I don't know. Well, let me just say this. I got three pieces of mind here. Number one, this is all supposed to be dramatic and serious, and it's just not written that great. Number two is that well, this is all a giant troll, and he is having a laugh at us. You bought my book, and it's completely nonsensical. and making, people that are trying to make sense out of the book, and, he's just kind of snickering in the background. Maybe, possibly. I hope it is the third option, which is what he's trying to say is it's supposed to be sort of his take on a Saturday morning cartoon. Now, I would not recommend this at all to any kids whatsoever, unless they got, little odd there. Do not share this with kids. Please do not. So I don't know how well he did with that. Um, this is Bear's best guess on what is going on with the book. I think what Jon Malin is trying to do is to take essentially the hero's journey, the hero's saga. So essentially, Godlike is like a futuristic Beowulf, if you think of it that way. Even though it does a lot of stuff in the past, he's fighting aliens with swords. I don't know, people, but just hang with me here. I think he's trying to go after essentially a template of the hero's journey. So something along the lines of Beowulf. So you've got stuff throughout human history as far as the hero's journey goes. So in supplement here, bringing it back around to what you see on the screen here. So I had to read supplement. I got through the first story. I was like, the whole Godlike. I was like, where is Mark Polton at? We need some semblance of sense here. The first book there with Mark Engine, I think is the name of it, was good. I understood the story, but it literally is the same template. It's not the same story. It's not the same characters, but it's the same template of the hero's journey. I tried reading the other book in supplement. I'm sorry, Von Klaus, you're a great writer, but I got about halfway through it and just threw up my hands because that book was essentially the same story. I mean, it's different. There's different characters. It was set like 1,000 years from our present time, but before Godlike. But it's literally the same story. There's a part in Godlike where essentially the Clark Kent version, the guy dies, I think. And then you go 2 blank pages, so 80 pages, really 78 pages. Literally the same thing happens in the supplemental. It's essentially a template I think that he's come up with and trying to put an his IP stamp on it. So Godlike is the hero's journey, the hero's saga. That's great and all. That's terrific, but if you're trying to do it more than one book, you've essentially written yourself into a hole. Every single story that you're going to have after it is the same essential story. It's the same essential hero's journey. So you're not really like the Engine one. It was in 1800s America, talking about Indians, and they're bringing. I really don't want to get into Bear's fourth thought on this, but they bring in the white savior, and he's supposed to help out and everything. So the character in that book, in the Engine book, is essentially the same character as in the Godlike book. Obviously separated by 10,000, 20,000 years. I don't know. I'm not sure. But separated by that amount of time. But it's essentially the same. It's the same template. You could probably, I don't know. It's like putting different types of sprinkles onto your vanilla ice cream. It's still vanilla ice cream. You're not going to get away from the vanilla ice cream. You might put sprinkles on there. You might put Oreo cookie little crumbles on there. You might put caramel on there or something like that. But it's still essentially the ice cream cone, a vanilla ice cream cone. So Godlike, yeah, it probably started out as a good concept, but he didn't really, he wasn't able to follow through with it in a coherent way. So, it's hard to make a determination other than, hey, the art looks really great, but I don't know what the story's about. I think that's what the story is about. It's just a template of a hero's journey. So that's why I said the story in Godlike doesn't matter, because it literally doesn't. There's just stuff in there where you're learning about all these different families that are left of the human race. You're like, okay, this is this family and they're there. This is this family and they're there. Then you turn the page and they're all dead. So it's like over and over and over again, you are trying to invest in the story, and then they just pull the rug. And you can only do that so many times before the reader just completely checks out. I will say one to end it off on a good note. I will say one good thing about Jon Malin's writing is he did make it in a certain way a page turner, because you would have something like the build up to the big boss or whatever. The big boss comes out and he stands in front of everybody, and then the boss goes to speak and the boss says, and then you got to flip the page to the next page to see what the boss says. I thought bringing the audience along that way was a good way of writing and keeping the page turned and everything, but literally everything else that had to do with writing was either convoluted, didn't make much sense even if you went back or went to the supplemental to check things out. Yeah, it was just a very, very odd, strange read there. So once again, without any hesitation whatsoever, Godlike, Inglorious Rex II gets Bear's thumbs up and approval, and the winner, literally no contest. I like the artwork in Godlike, but the artwork and the story in Inglorious Rex pushed it way over the edge and beyond. Shane did an excellent job with his IP and the story that he's trying to tell. The story of Godlike is very nebulous. It's very hard, and I guess you could tell by the way I'm trying to describe the story itself, which didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I went to go back to reread it, and it just I had to put it down, people. I'm sorry. I was just like, no, this isn't gonna work. I enjoy looking at the pretty pictures, but you're literally reading a history essay and a religious essay, and a fantasy novel all mingled together, and it really needed either, if not a page one rewrite, then just cut like half of the dialogue, please. Cut half of it, and you'd be doing okay. I mean, all this dialogue there, just a little too much, people, a little too much. So, without hesitation, our winner here today is, of course, Inglorious Rex #2. So congratulations. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations. Humans, thank you for watching this video. If you wish to have more, please like and subscribe. And don't forget that bell for notification. It would please Bear very much. You don't want to see Bear bad, do you? Grrrr.